Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, January 31st, 2018.
I'm Michael Agello, on location.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, not on location.
And I'm Eklund, where I always am, in this friggin' house. And you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, and at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we have an interesting coming today, back into the hockey world. A comeback and goings into the hockey world we should talk about today. So, of course, news broke and my blog's up there, and by now everybody knows about it, but I would like to talk about Mike Fisher returning, or I think maybe better said, talking about trying to return. Like, I think that this is not necessarily a definite thing. I think that it's funny because Mike Fisher has announced today that he's going to, and the Predators have announced that they're gonna welcome him back in. I mean, apparently they reached out to him, which is interesting. In December, Dave Poyle did. I'm not surprised that he came back because I know how much he wanted to win last year and how close he was and how he sees this team as, being equally as close as that team was, if not even better. And, but what's great about this, there's a couple things that I really like about this thing. And, but I thought I would let you guys talk first of all about why you think it's going to be a problem. Then I'll put the good stuff onto it because I think there's a lot of really good stuff.
No, why don't you start with the opposite?
I'll start with the really good stuff. The good stuff, which I think is far more important than anything else. Like I heard somebody today mention, did we freeze up? What the hell?
No, we're fine. Oh, did you freeze up? Oh.
I froze up. I can't see. Can you see me still?
I can see you, but you are frozen. I mean, it's a good look. It's not a bad one.
I see the look. Yes, I do. The computer's totally whacked.
There you go.
All right, that's better. Okay, so here's the thing. I got immediately some people saying, and this is what's cool. Predators fans are like, this means, we're not gonna be able to go after Rick Nash, or we're not gonna be able to bring in somebody else at the trade deadline, and Brian Lawton tweeted out that this is like a trade deadline move for the Predators, getting experienced player, and but beyond that, obviously somebody who's experienced but knows this team inside out and knows the inside out. Mm-hmm. And yes, this might take money away, but I doubt this is a lot of money that we're talking about. I doubt that this is a money.
So you think he came in at the minimum?
Maybe.
I don't think he did.
Well, he hasn't actually, as of now.
He's not even signed yet.
Right. And I think that and this is what I like about the Predators, and this is why I think this is important. The Predators have basically, the Predators would sign him right away if he said he's ready to come back. And if he said, I'm coming back and I'm definitely coming back, then we're in. But the Predators and Fisher have such a good relationship that he says, listen, I'm going to come in and practice. I'm going to work on things. I'm going to see how it goes. And then if we like it, we'll sign a deal before the trade deadline, February 26th or whatever it is, 28th. 26th, right?
Mm-hmm. 26th.
Right. So 26th we'll sign the deal. I mean, this is Fisher, not, this is the kind of relationship this organization has with its players and the kind of relationship it has with Mike Fisher. Really here, you're looking at saying, okay, let me come in. I know I might not be able to do this. I'm going to come in and compete, but I really want to try, and he's going to give it his all. And obviously, they're so stacked on the center. This team is stacked on the center with centers. It's crazy. I mean, they have the best center, one of the best center cores in the league right now, as it is. So you're adding Mike Fisher, who is really a center, full out, and a face-off guy and a penalty-killing guy. But the fact that the Predators are allowing this to happen goes a lot further than people realize in the off-season when teams look at Nashville. This is the kind of thing the player looks at and says, okay, that organization is classy. That organization is top notch, and they do good things for the players who do good things for them. And that means something. It really does. And
I think it means something when players want to go there and sign a deal and stuff. Sure, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm taking out of the situation is it really is a little bit of a look into the special relationship that this player has with this team. This is. I mean, obviously Fisher had lost a little bit of a step last year and didn't look like the same person in the playoffs. But they still left it wide open, and they left money up. They left money out there to sign him if he wanted to come back. They had that all figured out in the summer, And when I asked people about Mike Fisher, they all said and rare the teams say it's up to him. It really was up to him. If he wanted to come back, they were going to bring him back, and they probably would have brought him back at almost the same money too. He probably wouldn't have taken that money. This is what's so interesting about the situation. It's just really nicely put together. So that's my positive take on this. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, and I agree with everything you said, but the the thing that you have to take from this is what will it result on the ice. And as you said, I think best case scenario, if he hasn't lost a step, he's a fourth-line center, or maybe they even move him to the wing, or he's a black ace in case somebody gets hurt and he comes in and wins faceoffs. But this is not this is not going to make David Poile say, okay, we've made our move. We're not going to try to trade for Evander Kane. We're not going to try to trade for Pacioretty. We're done. This is it. This is our move. No. If this is your move, you failed at the deadline. This is a good depth move, a guy that you know, a guy that you trust, a guy that you're probably not paying a ton of money to. And if that's what it is, that's fine. But don't fool yourself in saying this is the move that we need to make before February 26th that, puts us over the top. I think Nashville's got a really good chance of coming out of the West this year, but I think they need one more scoring forward, and Mike Fisher ain't it.
Yeah, I look at it like getting past the good guy factor and everything X said about the organization, all that's true. But cold hard facts, he's got 12 points in his last 37 playoff games.
Right.
So if you're bringing a guy to take a roster spot and knowing he's not going to score much just for intangibles, I don't know if we're in the era to do that anymore. That was great in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It started to fail a little in the 2000s, and I think it doesn't really hold water anymore, because if that were the case, then the Brian Boyle pickup for the Leafs last year would have been tremendous, and it wasn't. And we thought it was going to be pretty good, and it did nothing. And I look at the addition as a similar move with a more veteran team. That's it.
Don't we remember that the goal that Brian Boyle scored? That was a pretty big friggin' goal for them. And remember how close the Leafs came to not making the playoffs? I mean, I think that you could argue that Boyle,
he had a goal or two. And
yeah, but did he score a game-winning goal at one point?
No, he had no goals. He had 3 assists in 17 games.
Oh, there you go.
And he had 2 assists in the playoffs, and he assisted on Kapanen's overtime goal. But the thing is, and he's a good guy, and he's probably going to win the Masterton this year. And he had a positive effect on the Leafs. But I will continue to say till my dying day that deal was stupid, because they gave up a second-round pick. They probably would have made the playoffs without Brian Boyle. And so now what I put this deal, what I matched up this deal to, is when Matt Sundin came back with Vancouver in 2008. He took off the entire first half of the season. He came back, and I think it was late January after the All-Star break. And you know what? He wasn't the same player. So I think Nashville's got themselves a couple outs here where they're like, let's see what he does. Let's give him till February 26th. Let's let him get back in shape. We'll see where it goes. And if it doesn't go well, if he's lost a step, then they can just say, well, this didn't work out. But if it does and they sign him, it's a good depth move. But this is not the impact move that I think David Poile probably needs to make before February 26th.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that this isn't the move. This isn't the impact move for sure. But teams have risked more for less of an upside. That's my opinion. That's
we're assuming that if he does get signed, he's getting signed for the minimum. But let's assume he doesn't. To me, there's a monetary point where it's not worth having him.
Only if that money is going to be spent other ways this year. I mean, like if you're looking at just signing for the rest.
We have to assume they're going to try and do something. Unless they're spending the money on him.
But the thing is, they have to sign by February 26th. I'm trying to know, can that signing happen after 3 p.m. or does that happen?
No. For the contract, I believe if they sign a player after February 26th, they either have to clear waivers to play in the playoffs, or they're ineligible for playing in the playoffs.
I don't think they can play in the playoffs at all. I think they can only play in the regular. But I wasn't sure if the time was the same as the deadline. Like if you had till the end of that day to sign a player, which and I think that we might see something like that. Not in terms of that, but we might see something like he's going to take the money that's available to him. That's what I would see Mike Fisher do. Like, okay, we go out there and we can make a move for a $2 million player. Okay, so we're going to take that $2 million player, and I'll take this. If not, I'll take more. If that move isn't made,
Can I ask the obvious question?
Yeah.
The obvious question is, why didn't he go to the Olympics?
Because he's really, I think his point of retiring had a lot more to do with being around his family than anything else. I think that's really what he wanted. He wanted to be around his kid.
No, I get that, but that's part of the issue here.
But going to the Olympics,
everything is very convenient, and now he's going to attempt to come back where he hasn't played. If he at least went to the Olympics, he'd be playing.
There are players. There are players who don't want to go to the Olympics for a lot of reasons.
I get that, but I'm just saying, when you've been out of the game, even for a short time, you have no idea. And he's not the best skater to begin with. You have no idea if you can keep up anymore.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, I was going to say, Russ, that we can't make the argument that the Canadian Olympic team put a premium on speed because Rene Bourque and Maxime Lapierre are on the team.
The idea is he'd be playing games.
Right, but they're not exactly Eric Heiden. So you know what I'm saying? It's like
games. I think you'd rather go to Milwaukee and play games than South Korea. I think that if you're Mike Fisher, you're married to Carrie Underwood.
But how long can he play games in Milwaukee without being signed?
He could do a PTA, right? He could do.
Yeah,
I guess they could do a PTO, so last 2 weeks, right?
PTO.
No. It can. If he signs an amateur tryout contract, it's basically unlimited. It could be up to 2 months.
I thought it was like 2-3 weeks. Okay.
It can be up to 2 months. I remember Jeff Glass with the Marlies signed, and he was there for over a month. So if they wanted to go that way, just to make sure he got conditioning, or they could sign him to a contract.
Here's another thing.
Right.
Do we know that he's going to take the bus with Milwaukee? Do we know that?
I don't know anything about that. I'm just saying he'd rather do that, I think, than go to Sochi. I don't know that he's going to have to go there, or what they're going to do with that. I do know, talking to people there on that team today, though, when I was trying to find out what exactly this magic mystery was, that his presence is missed in the locker room.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
He's definitely one of those guys who. You're not going to see him ask for the captaincy back or anything like that. It's Yossi's going to stay the captain. Some people were worried about that. It's like, no, you don't have
not that kind of guy.
You don't have to put a C on Mike Fisher's chest to mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, Yossi was part of the overture in December. They said that he had signed off, as well as Poyle and Yossi. I don't know if it was in unison, but they both reached out.
I think that shows again. It shows again, what the class of this organization is. They go to their captain and they make sure it's okay. It's okay to bring another captain because that could be threatened, right? But the fact they did that is pretty. All of this is rare in today's game.
It's all rare, but I still don't know if it equals, Stanley Cup playoff wins. That's the issue.
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? It's hard to draw straight line comparisons. All I can say is I think that whether or not it does wins or not, I would look at it long term. And long term, to me, it's a great thing to do because it does make players and player agents respect this organization.
It does. There's no question about that. Like that, when those kinds of situations come up, there's no doubt that matters. But just as an example, we heard Nick Kyprios today say, well, the Rangers got Glenn Anderson. Well, short of all the wisdom and everything, when you look at the numbers, what did Glenn Anderson really add to the '94 Rangers Stanley Cup run?
Yeah, not a ton. But the thing is, Russ, that Glenn Anderson was integral to the Leafs in the previous year to getting as far as they did. He scored overtime winners. He was big with Gilmore and Andrechuk. So, it was a.
At least he had that going for him. I get it.
Right. We know that move was made as a comfort move because it was a former Oiler and half the Oilers were on that Ranger team. So
he had 6 points and 42 PIMs. So if you're gonna, and he had 6 points in the 12 regular season games, so he really wasn't the same player.
No.
And it did come at a cost. So the positive here is there was no extra player cost.
Right. And I think that's really a big point in this. And I just like the way it's happening. It's happening. It feels kind of organic. It feels like something that could only happen there in some ways because there's not going to be all this crazy media pressure every time Mike Fisher skates. Is he good? Is he good? It's going to be a decision that they make as a team, and that'll be that. It won't be a circus. And I think that's something that Fisher was probably afraid of. I know he was afraid of that when announcing his retirement. I know he really wanted to make sure it wasn't a circus. He's not the kind of guy who likes that kind of attention. And this is not about paying his wife's speeding ticket, which apparently was like a big joke today because apparently she tweeted out yesterday she got a speeding ticket yesterday on the highway, and those that's a great family. It's a great story. It's a great. Having Carrie Fisher around last year during the finals was such a great story for the NHL too. There was a lot of good things that happened.
Wait, you said Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Well,
Sorry.
that's her. I mean, that's her married name, so you could get it.
I know, but it's Carrie Underwood. There is another Carrie Fisher.
I know. I can't.
Around the NHL, we would know about it.
Or there was.
There wasn't another. Right.
There was.
Just watched that movie again yesterday. So, yeah. So, but yeah, to me, yeah, I think having Carrie Underwood around, who got the speeding ticket yesterday, I think is a good thing. It's a good thing.
How do you know she got a speeding ticket yesterday, and why do you care?
Well, it was all over Twitter today when this happened because she tweeted out. I don't follow her on Twitter, or I might actually, but I didn't see it. But yeah, she tweeted out yesterday. I can't believe I got a speeding ticket, and a lot of people were tweeting, is this because she got the speeding ticket? Fisher.
I'm sorry. Thumbs down to the Tennessee State Police, because anybody who would give her a speeding ticket.
No, I'm with you there.
Usually, come on.
No. Regular citizen, give him the ticket. I agree with it. But I will tell you this. I posted something, I guess, this past Saturday. So I posted something Friday that she was on the Food Network with Philip Forsberg and a couple other players cooking. Like, that I get. But, like, speeding tickets, like, I don't care.
Have you guys ever gotten out of a speeding ticket? Here's my question for you real quick today. Just off topic for a second. Have you ever gotten out of a speeding ticket?
Yes.
Yes, I got out of one in my whole entire life. That's it.
I got out of one for the first time this summer. For the first time, I've gotten many speeding tickets. I'm not a bad driver. I just have horrible luck. I've had my run-ins with the law as far as speeding tickets go, but I've never gotten out of one. My wife's gotten. I've been in the car 5 times with my wife when she's gotten. I've never once gotten a ticket, but driving. And even when they've even asked me for ID, which is like, I'm like, what have I done? I'm just sitting here. I'm a person.
I got out of one coming back from the Stanley Cup 2 or 3 years ago because he wanted to talk hockey. Otherwise, I was done.
That's so funny.
How did he know?
My friend.
Because I think he asked where I was coming from.
Oh.
I know a guy who has the best way of getting out of a speeding ticket. I just have to say this real quick story. This is really funny. So this is what she does. Okay, this is really messed up. She keeps a bee in a plastic bag. Okay, a dead bee in a plastic bag in her glove compartment. If she ever gets pulled over for speeding, what she does, she shows the cop the bee and says, "I'm allergic to bees, certain bees. I just got stung. I'm bringing this with me." And it's shutting her out of speeding.
What a load of crap! I know. I'm sure it works, but what a load of crap.
Make up excuses. I don't.
Well, I still to this day do not. I still to this day do not know how I got out of my speeding ticket. I was rushing to go see a movie, and this was years ago. The movie was Hunt for Red October. And I get pulled over just before the exit, and the state trooper pulls me over and says, "Why are you in such a rush?" And I was truthful to him and said, "I'm going to see this movie." He says, "What movie?" "Hunt for Red October." "Okay, that's a good enough excuse. Go ahead."
There you go.
So he was a Connery fan.
He must, or Alec Baldwin.
The only reason I got out of mine was because
I'm going to go with Connery on that one.
I had three girls with me that were soccer players. My daughter and 2 of her friends. We were driving. We were late, and they all were in their soccer jerseys. And the guy was like, "Okay, go ahead, you're got it."
All right, but that's good. I get that. Look, luckily, I have no points on my license, and I guarantee you, I'll never get out of another speeding ticket. Guaranteed.
Yeah, not now. You won't. All right. So, moving on. Another interesting thing here today is the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights, after winning last night in really dramatic fashion.
Whoa. Dramatic or stupid? Let's start with stupid.
Okay, I thought it was pretty dramatic, but go ahead. Why do you think?
Michael Furley passed the puck back to the goalie. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You never do that late in the game, ever.
No, I agree.
And you know that as a goalie, you do.
Yeah, it's still dramatic. It might not have been
there. It was dramatic. I don't.
They might not have been the reason for the drama, but it was dramatic. But now by winning that game, they're now officially the winningest expansion team in NHL history.
Crazy.
For the most amount of wins in a season already, and of course with lots of games to go. Passing, I think it was the Anaheim Ducks. I think they were the best expansion team for that or something like that. I think they had the best expansion record.
Yeah, see, some guy named Booger in the chat room. He really, his name is Booger. Like it's Booger something. Asked if Mike and I paid off our bet yet. We didn't, but what did we actually bet? I will pay it off. I forget. For the Vegas Golden Knights points, Mike. We did bet.
Oh,
that's right.
Ekes won this bet early.
Won this bet easily. Thanks, Booger. We'll call you Booger.
We'll get him a free pass to the nearest smorgasbord.
I think this gets me out of like 3 bets I owe them on. I'll say that.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll accept nothing here, but I think that I've lost enough. All right, so the best division in hockey is what?
The Central.
Okay.
Best definition of hockey?
Best division in hockey.
Oh, division. I'm sorry. I thought I heard definition. Yeah, I'm going to go Central.
And you'd be right. And I think a lot of people think of the Central as being down a little bit this year because, maybe it's because Chicago's not dominating or because Winnipeg's winning it or whatever. But, in goal differential, the Central's a plus 122. The next closest one is the Metro, which is a minus 19.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. I mean, that's
Metro's a hot mess right now.
Metro's a hot mess, but that's how bad of the other divisions are. I mean, the other divisions have, or at least have some teams that are just horribly bad in them. And
Let's talk about the Metro for a second because the Islanders are here in Toronto to play the Leafs tonight, and they played last night against Florida with Harry Sateri in goal.
Hey, don't rip Harry. You know I have
No. Just let me finish. Jeez. Reimer's hurt. Luongo's hurt. This is a team that's not making the playoffs. I give credit to Harry that he gets his first NHL win, but it's more of a statement on the Islanders who, should be playing with a little more desperation, and they'll probably end up winning in Toronto because, that's the way things go. But last night against a weak Florida team, they looked pretty damn weak. And, this is a team before the deadline. Garth Snow, are you going to get a goaltender or what? Are you going to make a move that convinces John Tavares that you're not just twiddling your thumbs or what? Because this is a team that if they just stand pat and do what they do, I think they risk losing Tavares. I don't think he's coming to Toronto, but I think there's 4 or 5 teams out there that would throw a bank at him. And if they don't show him some positive sign, I mean, I like the young guys that they have in that team, but Garth Snow has got to do something, I would say, dramatic in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
I think there's a lot of sense to that. I still think it's 70-30 Tavares stays, but he's checking the market based on these kinds of things that we're talking about. And
some interesting quotes from Tavares as of late.
Yeah. Okay, but hold on. So the only thing I'll say about last night, and Eck, I don't know if you saw it, but if you did, the Jarro Halak goal that he gave up on a wraparound was a joke. It took an inordinate amount of time for the wraparound to really come to play, and Halak was completely on the other side and showed a lot of immobility going post to post. And even somebody last night, maybe Scott Stevens or someone in the NHL Network office, doing the show was like, you don't see that goal much in the NHL anymore. And it's true because goalies are too good to give up those wraparound goals anymore. They sniff them out very quickly, but it does show that they still are back in the wrong goalie. I still would go with Bryce more. They're going with a lot more. And if they continue to do it, and that's the thing. If you're waiting for the deadline, we don't know. That could be too late to get a goalie already. They needed a goalie a month ago. That's when they really needed a goalie.
I agree. I mean, they hung this, and I think some of that goes on weight. I think that these goalies were good enough. And they don't appear to be. It doesn't appear. I mean, this is a team they've scored plenty of goals. This team gets goals, but they need them badly. It's very strange. The strange thing about the Metro to me is that all the teams are very different. Like you have every kind of NHL team that's ever existed in the Metro division right now. It feels like, this is a high scoring team like the Islanders who can't keep the puck out of the net. Down to like the Devils who are like really pretty good both ways defensively. The Blue Jackets who can't score goals really. But, it's interesting. Like every kind of team you could ever think about in the Metro. And if the Flyers were to beat the Capitals tonight, 1st to 5th place in the Metro would be 5 points. And the Flyers and Caps that would have the same amount of games played.
Right, so X, stop there. So what is your level of confidence with Neuwirth, who hasn't played since like the 25th? He hasn't played in like 6-7 days, something like that. He the last game he played, he gave up 5 goals, and before that, he was really good. He was good, but then they sat him again, and so now Neuwirth comes in cold. You're going there. You're coming off a break. What is your level of? Hey, I feel really confident about the Flyers being a 5 and a 0 being, no confidence.
I'll throw this out there. It matters a lot that they're playing the Capitals in Washington. Own the Capitals in Washington. This is one of Neuwirth's ex-teams. He came in, remember, in the playoffs before, and really like almost single-handedly took the Capitals in that one series that the Flyers had no business being in at all. This is the best place he could be playing. Better than Philly, better than anywhere else. So I think that my confidence tonight is pretty high. I can give him like a 4 tonight. Neuwirth is nothing new to coming in cold after not playing for long periods of time. This is in his career. He's doing this a lot. And like you say, they can look pretty solid. A lot of it will depend on the team itself in front of him for sure. But
Alex Lyon did get called up, by the way, so they're leaving Tokarski and Lehigh right now.
Right, and I think that's probably the smart thing to do. I mean, Alex Lyon deserves the call up. I mean,
he probably deserves a call up. Excuse me. And if injuries still occurred, well, you want Tokarski playing full time because he does have playoff experience, just in case injuries get that bad. So I think it's probably the right thing. But at some point, I think Tokarski could become a pawn in this because we don't know what Elliott's injury is.
How many goalies have to get hurt for Hart to be an emergency call-up?
Well, he can't be an emergency call-up while the season's going on. So you got to wait until their season's completely over, and then they could bring him in. Well, what? Is he 20 yet? You got to look and see if he's 20.
Are you sure about that? Because I mean, I remember, unless the rules have changed, I remember the Leafs calling up Nazem Kadri from London in his second year.
No, but that was pre-CBA, wasn't it?
It was pre this CBA, but I don't think that's
CBA. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed.
We had an emergency call up last year.
The Sabres called up Brendan Gooley from the WHL. They can do that.
If he's 20, I think 20 might be the year.
Well, Gooley was 19.
No, he's 19, so he could do it then if he's 19. Well, yeah, he's not 20 till August, but he's 19. Let me look up the emergency call up.
Yeah, no, I think if they wanted to call up Carter Hart, they could. Just remember, he's signed to a contract, and if it went over 10 games, he would lapse the first year of his deal. Right. They don't want to do that, but they could call him up. I think that it would be allowed.
It's just somebody said to me the other day, they were out, at a party, and they said, what I could see. They reminded me of the Fun Flyers run they had against the, in 2010, where they had good goaltending and no goaltending at the same time. We went back with Boucher and Lego Leighton were. Laviolette did a hell of a job somehow managing.
All right, so here's the rule: when an NHL club loses 3 positional players to injury, so they got to lose 3 guys.
Okay, so yeah, three goalies.
So that's probably not going to happen.
Well, I would say it's a matter of Lyon because Neuwirth. I wouldn't bet against that.
Now you have to have 3 hurt at the same time, and then they allow it.
And the Sabres had 3 hurt because Zach Bogosian is always hurt, and then they had a couple others.
Yeah. No,
but that is an obscure rule. Like, even though I remember Gooley coming up, I could never remember that. I didn't know that was the rule. I'll be honest.
Yeah. No, so I think that I do have some confidence in Neuwirth tonight. Now, as this thing stretches on, where that goes from, and I think that the Flyers wouldn't be too adverse. I could see them going to the backup. You could see them going to Lyon.
No, we should talk about. We talked about Russ and I talked about this before the show, and I'm in the process of writing about this for today's Leaf blog. Mike Babcock, in not so subtle fashion, and I don't think it was done well. I can't analyze the intent, other than the fact that in his mornings or post morning skate presser, essentially said, well, if we play well enough before the deadline, essentially it's up to Lou to go out there and make a move. Putting the onus back on Lou Lamoriello, and he indicated that he has lines of communication with Lou, and it's an organizational evaluation of where the needs are, and in the end it's his decision. But you could clearly say, or clearly state that when Babcock says, "I've never had a team that didn't need an upgrade or didn't need to some help." He's putting the onus on Lou to say, okay, well, I think I can win. I mean, if we play well, I think I can win, but I'm going to need some help. And I don't know whether the Leafs are in that position right now because they're 15 points ahead of the rest of the Atlantic Division. They're 5 points behind the Bruins, 10 points behind the Lightning. They're stuck in third place in the Atlantic. They're probably not going anywhere unless they go on a Ottawa Senators type run in the last 31 games. So there's really nothing to do in terms of making a move that I think that will better their chances unless they make the big move that I've been saying that they should do for a year and a half. And now I don't know if Lamoriello is going to do that, but that's where Babcock is.
Well, here's the thing: nobody ignores better than Lou, so we'll start with that. But I think Babcock is playing to Shanahan here to try and get Shanahan to possibly make a move and tell Lou, listen, we got to make a move. Then Lou has to make a move. Like, there's no way around it. And I think that's the game that Mike Babcock's playing here because, like, he knows what Mike just said is the team is pretty set the way they are for what they're doing. But he always feels like he could get further. So he would always rather trying to get further by trading assets. And no, listen. Mike Babcock wants to trade.
Yeah, that's been the joke we've talked about all along. About him, saying pain and all that stuff. Like Babcock, we knew this would come.
We all knew this would come.
And I think that they are smart enough to know that that's his role, actually, to push things. That they sit there and say, okay, Babcock's going to.
You don't want him saying it in the media every 3-4 weeks in Toronto because it becomes a story. That's the problem.
Yeah, right. I think his
Shanahan on the other side, and then you have Lou in the middle. Lou likes to go for things when he can, but also he can be conservative. So I think Shanahan is really willing to take this long and slowly.
I think his role is to push players, not to push management, and that's where I think in this I think he's sort of subtly not really
subtle.
Like
he's done it too many times for subtle.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is that he's not like saying give me players now. He's being sort of like genteel about it, but he mentioned it 3 times in his remarks today, and I'm like, okay, well, look at it from the management perspective. Do you want them to go out there? Basically, what he's saying is, if there's an opportunity to get me a defenseman, and it's talking about giving up future assets for a guy like a Chris Tanev or a Yarmulson or somebody who's got more than a year left in his contract, then I'm sure you're going to get a thumbs up from Mike Babcock because he could and will use those players. Now, I don't think he's going to want them to go and overspend on a rental like they did last year for Brian Boyle, because that was just, I think, a short-term and fairly, I think, stupid move, like I've said. But I think
that's what they're probably looking at, Mike. I think that's what they're going to end up with.
And that's the thing. I think they did that move because it placated Babcock. He said, I want a 4th-line center, and Ben Smith or Freddie Gauthier isn't going to cut it. So they went out and got Brian Boyle, and great. He played okay hockey for 17 games and good in the playoffs. Then he walked away for nothing. He gave up a second-round pick. It was a second-round pick that could be a player down the road. And now they have an extra second-round pick this year. Do they go out and trade it for Eric Branson or somebody like that?
Mike, who was that second rounder traded to again? Was it Jersey?
Yeah.
So
no, Tampa.
Tampa, sorry. So I got to look up Tampa, see who they drafted there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just look up Brian Boyle on Hockey DB and it'll pop up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is we're gonna hear about this for like the next 3.5 weeks. The name of Gudbranson has been out there forever in terms of he's on the TSN top list. I'm sure he's on the rumor chart.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Jim Benning this weekend comes out and says, "Oh, we're looking to sign him." Poppycock. You know what this is? Or Balderdash. You know what this is? They're not getting good enough offers for Gudbranson, so they're saying, we're going to try and sign him. But, all of a sudden a signed Gudbranson is going to get you more than a rental Gudbranson? I don't think so. Especially if you sign.
Sorry, Mike. Here's what the league gave up potentially for Boyle. The Tampa Bay got Alexander Volkov, who's already in the AHL. He has 26 points in 44 games. He's a +12. They've turned that into something.
Yeah, yeah. I still would have done it. I still would have done it.
No, I just think it. I just think
I
it was.
understand Mike's point. I still would have done it too, but I do understand Mike's point.
Yeah,
And that's the dilemma that they face. That's the dilemma that they face before February 26th. Do you think that the Leafs have a legitimate chance at winning the Stanley Cup? If you do, Lou Lamoriello should go out and make a deal to improve their defense. If you don't, you're locked into third place. They should legitimately shop Van Riemsdyk, Bozak, and Komarov. They're expiring contracts, but the indications are they're not going to do that. But if you're going to play the middle ground, what does that get you? And that's the thing I don't understand. Playing the middle ground and just keeping these guys as, quote, own rentals and then letting them walk away. I don't think they'll let JVR walk. I think they'll try to re-sign him. But if they let them walk away for nothing, all you're doing is shortchanging your organization of assets that they could get.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we're looking at teams who are buyers and sellers down the line here, which is one thing that we you have to look at lots of factors. And one of the big factors is expectation. Another factor is opportunity, which means how's the rest of the league looking? Do you have a chance of actually making a run? Which I think is something that Boston is starting to feel like they do, where Boston maybe wasn't in the beginning thinking that they had a chance to make a run, but they suddenly look around and they say, okay. I mean, despite the fact they lost last night, they had a hell of a streak going there. So, I mean, and then another, but expectation, opportunity, and often, where you think of your window opening or closing is, and I think that what's happening with a lot of these teams, when we look at Toronto, expectation is always going to be relatively high. I mean, they that's just part of what goes with it. You can never put an expectation between a 1 and a 10. I would never put it below an 8 for a Maple Leafs team that just doesn't exist. That's this team is, expectations always high, and then. Window opening or closing. Window's definitely opening, and what are the chances of them going far? I mean, they have to look at Boston. They have to say, can we beat Boston? That's basically what it comes down to for them, right? So they're looking at Boston for the most part and saying, if we can beat Boston by adding something, then then we'll take our chances, because Tampa's going to be great. Tampa's likely their second matchup in the playoffs, but who knows? I mean, Tampa could be playing some really good team, could be playing the Penguins for all we know. So it's like anything's possible there. So. In which case, the Penguins are their matchup. So it could be anybody. So I think that Toronto is definitely right on the cusp of being. They're definitely not sellers, but if they're buyers, I think I think really.
Well, this year it's going to hurt them a little more, Eck, because they have a first, a second, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 7ths. Forgetting about the 7s, because you rarely turn that into anything.
They have 2 seconds. They have 2 seconds. The Leafs have 2 seconds. They have their own.
On this website, it says they have 1. So if they have 2, then that's what they'll trade.
Yeah, they have their own, and they have San Jose's from the Pollock Spalling deal. So
then they'll trade a second again this year at the deadline. That's what they're going to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but that's the thing. That's for a rental, and the indications are from a variety of people around Toronto, some of the insiders in TSN and Sportsnet, are that they're shying away from the rental market, and they're looking at guys who they can retain for a longer period of time.
If they could actually get them, like it's not a guarantee they can get those guys.
Right, and that's the thing.
They've been looking for a defenseman all year, and we've been talking about it all year, but they haven't gotten it.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, what do you have to give up if you're Toronto? What do you have to give up to get that elusive defenseman with term on his contract? You're probably going to have to give up your first. If it's a guy who's a legitimate top 4, you're probably going to have to give up your first round pick in 2018, and you're probably going to have to give up a young prospect like a guy like Kasperi Kapanen. All of a sudden, Kasperi Kapanen is a piece in this lineup. He's playing instead of Matt Martin. I don't think he's playing because all of a sudden he's better than Matt Martin. I think he might be playing because people want to see him in the NHL and see how he plays in the NHL.
No, I think he's playing because he's better than Matt Martin. That's what I think.
No, I'm telling you right now, Russ, when it comes to the playoffs, if it's between Matt Martin and Kasperi Kapanen, Babcock's playing Matt Martin.
We'll see. For a couple of games, I'm sure. If he goes with Matt Martin every game, that's just silly, because there is nothing Matt Martin's going to be able to do for these players in the playoffs. Nothing.
If they're playing Boston, who are they playing? Matt Martin or Kasperi Kapanen? With Boston,
well, what's Boston going to do? They're going to. I mean, if they're running you over like a freight train, then I'll put Matt Martin in. But how about not starting the series with Matt Martin and play my best players?
No, I'm just saying he's going to play. Boston. part of Boston is being more physical and more feisty. And I think that they will combat
I don't
that.
even know how feisty they are anymore in the playoffs, to be honest.
We'll see. I mean, they got McQuaid, they got Chara.
Talk about Winnipeg, because obviously they win last night against Tampa. Tampa, it's a tough one for Tampa coming out of the All-Star weekend to travel to Winnipeg. With all that went on, I think that Tampa looked flat in this game for sure. But Winnipeg still came out, and won the game, and this is a real test for them, because you're looking at two of the top teams in the NHL right now. 71 points for Tampa, and where's Winnipeg at? They're close. I'm just looking right now, but this is real. So they're at doesn't really matter. I'm sorry, I got my thing here, but anyway, I think they're at 68 points, so they're 3 points behind Tampa. So, and they win last night 3-1. The remarkable thing about Winnipeg is, one of my crazy stat for today is the fact that they've killed off 98% of their penalties at home over the last 40 penalties.
That's amazing.
Which is craziness. And that's besides the fact that Laine looks great in scoring. I mean, I always find the first couple games out of the All-Star break interesting to me, because teams realize that you come out of the All-Star break and there's definitely this push to say, okay, we're in it now. This is the end. And how teams come right out of that, to me, is always kind of fascinating. You see, and then with all the games we had last night, you can definitely see like Boston. I was really looking to see how they would respond, because they definitely didn't want to take a break. Hasn't lost. Pittsburgh comes out and beats up on San Jose, a very good team.
Well, the key with two of the teams that you mentioned, Dak, I mean, Boston, it was an 18-point or 18-game point streak, but the problem is that they've lost Marchand with the suspension, they've lost Charlie McAvoy with the heart ablation procedure. Last night, Nick Ritchie hits David Backes, and now we don't know how. Backes has had concussion problems, I believe, in the past.
Yeah, I think so.
And they say he's okay, but we'll see how long he's out. So those are three pretty big pieces to that team. Now they're going to get Marchand back in a couple games, but those losses, they tear down Boston significantly. And with Winnipeg, it's the same thing. They've lost Trouba, and Trouba's going to be out anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah. Scheifele still isn't back. And the onus is now on Cheveldayoff. It's like, okay, well, you're probably going to have to add a veteran piece one way or the other. Now I think it's imperative with Trouba out as long as he is. I think you have to go out and get reinforcements on the blue line, and that means maybe trading a young asset. And that's an organization that has young assets. So, I think it's now the time where Cheveldayoff is not one of these general managers who says we're going to just stick back and not give up our young players. You have a chance to win this year with a team that is playing very well. This is the opportunity where you should jump to the forefront and make a move.
Speaking of young assets, I just got over email that St. Louis sent Jake Wallman to Binghamton, not to Chicago.
Really? Wow.
And that's because of that shared affiliation thing. And so now, if you're looking if St. Louis looks like they think they can make a huge cup run, they might trade a guy like Jake Wallman, who could play in the NHL next year as a defenseman and as a pretty decent offensive defenseman. So that's a name to sort of look out for.
You're probably being the most aggressive team right now as far as trying to get the top 6 forward, in my opinion.
Well, I wonder after we were at the World Juniors, Russ, whether teams that are interested in teams that have top 6 forward that are interested in trading with St. Louis for prospects, whether they would hold out for a guy like Kyrou over a guy like a Wallman or a Barbashev or maybe even Robert Thomas. I mean, Kyrou was extremely impressive at the World Junior.
But if you need a defenseman, Wallman's a good one to get. And who is the team that runs the Binghamton Devils? Ottawa.
Right.
No, Devils. It's the Devils.
The Devils, sorry. And so, the Devils are getting a good long look at Jake Wallman, just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. By the way, in that game last night for Pittsburgh, Matt Murray made 40 saves. He was really good.
He was unbelievable. He was so good.
And that's the thing. When he's good, he is just.
After all he's been through, it's amazing what he does.
I know. Injuries, his father passing away. It's been really incredible. And but
that's the thing. This is why it's a joke when people are like, "Oh, are the Penguins going to miss the playoffs?" No, they're not going to miss the playoffs. They had too many guys to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even when their goaltending was going askew, they had too many guys just sitting in the wings. Like Malkin gets a hat trick. Crystal Tang makes a great diving play yesterday. They put the NHL on notice yesterday for the second half of the season. Like, hey, we're defending our championship. That's what they did.
No,
Russ, if they go ahead, I'm sorry.
Brian Russ, of course, obviously listening to the show yesterday, has a huge night last night because he's been such a great playoff player and never does anything in the regular season.
If they get the third line center that I think that they're missing right now, because obviously they have never replaced Bonino. They tried with Riley Sheehan, and I don't think that's really worked. If they get that third line center at the deadline, they're right back where they were last year. They really are.
I mean, I hesitate to say three-peat because I don't know if I have to pay Pat Riley a residual if I do.
Okay. Before we get out of here today, I wanted to definitely talk about the hashtag, the Bells Let's Talk hashtag that's going on, Bell Let's Talk hashtag, which is going on the internet, and the Paul Ranger piece that Darren Dreger did for TSN. Paul Ranger mysteriously leaving the NHL. And then coming out, that he was suffering from depression, and that's why he left. And it's an incredible piece. I
saw bits and pieces. It was moving.
Yeah, it's really worth watching. Especially if you're a coach or anything. If you coach a youth hockey team or any kind of youth team or youth soccer team or anything like that, I'm going to show this to my team that I coach in soccer. I just think it's really just like it's worth watching, worth showing your family.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll say this, Ek. I grew up with somebody who's in my family, who's very close, who had mental illness, and I was very young when I was exposed to it. Yeah. And so you don't have to even be the person with mental illness.
It affects everybody.
To suffer from those sort of symptoms, because I definitely did at times in my life while I was going through this with this person. And for the good part is, hey, for the last 20 years, this person's been fantastic, and that's terrific, and that's because of medications these days and everything else. But for a lot of my childhood, it wasn't the case, and nobody talked about it back in the 70s and 80s. Nobody talked about it. They tried to hide it. Yeah. And so I'm more than happy to see this and support it because I sort of lived it. And so everything you're saying is absolutely
a great point, because it really does affect families, and everybody that's close to people. And that's something, I've learned going through what I've been going through with my son. When someone has a serious illness and you have to go, it affects everybody and everything. And life can be very normal one minute and then very totally out of whack the next. And and you have to, I've had to spend a lot of time helping my daughter through this, which is something you just can't, and because it's easy when you're fighting a battle like this, the question, like he's fighting, is the questions of why is this happening to us? Why is this? And it's very easy to get depressed. It's very easy to fall into, you don't care and let your life go. At expression growing up in my family that no matter what, you should always show up, no matter what, you always show up. That was a big thing that we went by. And I think that's, what this kind of, you need to be there for people, and you need to, you can't just, it's easy to back away. But I agree with what you're saying, Russ. It's really, I've learned so much over the last, 3 months now, 4 or 5 months. It feels like 10 years.
Because I definitely kept stuff to myself back then, and it wasn't good.
Yeah. No problem. Go ahead, man.
Well, I had some, obviously some contact with Paul Ranger because he came back with the Leafs. I think it was 2012-13. I think it was that year. It was when during the lock. I'm pretty sure it was the year during the lockout, and there was speculation about why he had left the league, but the Toronto media really treated him with kid gloves. He came out, he just basically said, I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm not ready to talk about, but I'm back and I want to play hockey, and they respected that. But you heard things, and you didn't really know, so you never wanted to speculate on. And I think he's very brave to come out and talk about his situation. And the thing is, the thing I like about this initiative, the Bell Let's Talk initiative, that I have, a family friend who's one of his younger brothers committed suicide, and I always think to myself, I wish he would have just talk to me. I wish he would have let me know, if I could, because I would have been a sounding board for him. I wish I could have been there more and helped him. And now this initiative, I think, lets a lot of people know that you're not alone, and there is help out there.
Yeah, it's so true. And there is help, and family and friends, and it's hard. I mean, it you always think it's kind of silly when you think about people coming by or helping out, just can we help out? And you always, at first, when you're going through something like this, at least with us, we were like, oh, we don't need anybody's help, and then eventually you realize you do need people's help. You can't do it yourself, and and it is important to get help from people, and it's important that your friends just show up, and that not like they don't have to bring anything or do anything for you, but just know that they're there for you is really important. It really matters more than I ever thought it did. So I'm glad that this kind of thing is being brought to light.
Me too.
And I think it's good on the NHL, good on TSN. Great job by Dregs to put this out there. And that's all we got for today, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight, Mike, up there. Only a couple games tonight, so the Islanders, Leafs, Flyers, Caps, and going. So enjoy the game tonight. We will be back tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you.